You know, as you get older, a lot of things that used to be easy get hard, and for some people they get impossible without help. Well, our next guest, Mark Burns, knows all about that. He works with a group helping some of those seniors. He's the ED of Homebridge. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, David. Good to be here.
Tell us about Homebridge. What is their mission, and how do they help some of the people like I was talking about, seniors who need help bathing, cooking, or sometimes just walking around?
So Homebridge is a 30-year-old San Francisco nonprofit. We were actually started by a group of senior programs, and so we used to be called the IHSS Consortium, and many people know us by that name. Homebridge is a new brand we created in March. Well, we have a large team of home care providers, about 450 of them, who are overseen by supervisors and case managers, and we provide a very intensive level of support for Medi-Cal recipients who have an IHSS benefit but aren't really successful in managing their own worker directly. So they get assigned to us, and we provide them with a high level of support, doing anything from cooking and cleaning all the way to personal care. And our intent is to keep these folks who are generally living at a very crisis level of health care out of the emergency rooms and predominantly really out of being assigned into someplace like Laguna Honda long term.
Right. So when you say IHSS, you're talking about the Institute of Housing and Human Services, correct?
In-home supportive services.
Okay, in-home supportive services. And this is a city program, a state program?
It's a federal program. It's a Medi-Cal benefit, and it was actually constructed very much by people in California who lobbied in the 50s and 60s for a benefit for people with disabilities to have family members care for them and be compensated for that.
So how many people do you serve, and what is your typical client, or is there one?
Actually, it's a really interesting mix of clients. We serve about 1,300 clients here in San Francisco and another 100 down in San Mateo County, where we do this for the health plan of San Mateo. Our client base is half of them are under the age of 55 and the other half are over the age of 55. They vary in levels of disability from just slightly disabled until completely physically disabled, some folks who are severely disabled. Again, so it runs the real gamut from disabilities. What's a common characteristic among all the clients we serve is that they have some type of behavioral health condition which makes their managing their own worker complicated for them.
And explain, what do you mean by that sort of condition? So this is something more than just physical. It's someone who has mobility issues or whatnot. This is something different.
Right. So in conjunction with having a physical disability, these folks they're generally multiply diagnosed and have a complex diagnosis, which includes a behavioral diagnosis. And that can be anything from an active substance abuse issue to a AIDS-related dementia to early onset Alzheimer's. They're not so encumbered by that disability that they really need to be institutionalized. They can, with a certain level of support, still remain in the community. And as we like to say, the difference is they get to pick what they watch on TV, when they go to bed, what they want to have for dinner.
So Homebridge is designed to keep people in their homes.
Absolutely.
So you have a long history working with the disabled community. You worked with the name of the group in Berkeley. It's
Center for Independent Living.
Center for Independent Living, which of course is nationally recognized for keeping people living in their homes. I have to ask you, is it sometimes more of a challenge to meet these people in their homes versus having them somewhere else where they may have tools and facilities to take care of them? I mean, do you ever run into someone who really shouldn't still be living on their own that you have to say you need more services than we can provide?
Well, certainly that's the whole topic of independent living is all about being able to provide services in the community that are equivalent to the services you'd receive if you were in an institution. There's the Olmstead Act, which is the Supreme Court Act, that decision which basically allows you the right to receive those services, because it used to be, from an institutional point of view, easier, obviously, to put us all in institutions and take care of us there than to leave us at home. But if it's less expensive, then the Olmstead Act demands that we receive those services in the community. And the good news is, unfortunately, looking at what institutional care costs these days, it's generally infinitely less expensive to serve folks in the community. Right. So with our clientele in particular, you're talking about folks who have severe health crises occurring to them, and they're really struggling day to day to stay in the community. So sure, there are folks who don't necessarily succeed even in our extreme level of safety net care. It's really I think what our job is to try and keep them in the community as long as we can reasonably do that before they have to become institutionalized.
Right. You say about half of your clients are under the age of 55. Half are over the age of 55. How many are within the LGBT community?
So at least 10%. define themselves that way openly with us.
Right.
And obviously, in the older half of our population, we have folks who are less comfortable talking about that, who are still fighting across the city for cultural humility programs that really make our workers more sensitive to the needs of that population. So I would say it's a slightly larger number than the 10% that we're
Right.
looking at.
Now, you've been involved with this organization for 3 years, and so basically less than a month as its executive director.
Yeah.
What challenges, I mean, you're an old pro. I don't mean old in that sense. You're an experienced pro in this industry of healthcare. What has surprised you about the need? I mean, as we tape this, there's a homeless encampment out on the street.
Yeah.
There's a debate going on in the city about should we have a moratorium on housing. Housing seems to be what everyone's talking about. Do you ever just think it's just too much for one little organization to help?
Well, I was in this conversation at lunch yesterday with someone where you say, when can I not attack the problem because the problem is just too big? And I think that, at least in San Francisco, I think we all sort of feel, no, if it's one person you can help, you help one person. I mean, we're fortunate. We're a very large organization. We're $29 million. We serve 1,400 clients a year. We're extremely well supported by Human Services. We're their third largest contractor. I think the city is extremely dedicated to supporting this group of people. There are certainly larger issues at play in the city. Housing, the ability for workers to stay in the city. I mean, we have a minimum wage workforce, and so it's getting more and more difficult for us actually to find those 450
Yeah, because we don't
folks.
have a minimum wage housing.
Right. So where do the $12.25 an hour workers come from, right? They're all being displaced more and more, and so that issue is significant. Yesterday I was in a subcommittee at Office of Economic and Workforce Development that was made up of hospital HR directors from all the big names in town, and they were, interestingly enough, really focused on the $100,000 plus level of people who don't want to move to San Francisco because they can't find housing. So I turned to the DPH people and I said, well, the great news is that soon enough, no one will be able to afford to live in San Francisco who needs public health. They'll all be in the private health system, and then we won't have the problem anymore. I mean, I don't mean to make light of it. I think it's a very serious problem that as San Franciscans we all face, right? What is going to happen to this population that is getting more and more squeezed to the bottom of the rung?
In the last few moments, talk to me about just the day-to-day reality of what your employees do. What do they find? I mean, there can't be, I'm sure, a typical day or a typical client.
Well, so we focus on the clients who are the most needy, clearly. And so out of our 1,300 folks, there are probably 50 or 60 who are the ones we pay the most attention to, the ones who take the most energy from us. But on a daily basis, our workers go into SROs that have guns in the hallways. We go into apartments that have needles on the floor. We go into intense hoarding situations. You've seen it on TV. It exists everywhere. We actually have heavy cleaning services that we clean out. We have people who have behavioral issues that make them very violent, and so workers get threatened or have things thrown at them all day long. These are very extremely difficult situations for people earning $12.25 an hour.
So I was going to say, it sounds like you've got two constituencies. You've got the people that you're caring for, but also your staff. I mean, do they ever just come in and throw up their hands and say, Mark, I'm done?
So we turn over about a third of our staff every year.
Wow.
And much of it because even though we try and onboard them and introduce them to all the complexities and give them safety training, they go out and they do a week or two of it, and they meet the wrong client for them, and they just can't take it.
So they don't always necessarily see the same client?
No, they don't. It's not a one-on-one relationship.
We've only got a few moments left. If there's someone here who may be watching this and they're SRO hotel room or their home and they're feeling helpless and they need help, what would you tell them to do? Who do they call?
They call the Department of Aging and Adult Service Intake Unit. Absolutely. There are some great people there who can talk to them about all sorts of programs, anything from meals to housing advocacy to all sorts of counseling programs and in-home support, be it with Homebridge or be it with the overall public authority program, which is the larger part of the program.
Right. And if someone wants to find out more information about your organization, Homebridge, they can go online to
homebridgeca.org.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks, David.
We've been speaking with Mark Burns, Executive Director of Homebridge, helping seniors and others who need help where they live in their homes. And even in a city as rich as San Francisco, there's a lot of need out there. I'm David Perry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on 10%.